Alright, so in this video we will show you how I'll show you how I set up weapons. What I did was I made a new XML data file called svitems.xml. This is being executed from my svdatafiles.xml. So when the data for the game loads, it runs this. This specifies a couple sources. These sources are binary data files for the actual weapon files and for some icons to represent them for maybe an inventory HUD later. What I did, I began with the basic sword template. So I created one single item here. I called it a sword, gave it a source, which is this pack up here. And I did that so I can host all my weapon models completely outside the game, and I can have just put out new packs of models and just change. All I have to do at that point in time is upload the packs and change my data file, and the game will just run. I tell it which model to use, what icon to use for it, what mount node. The mount node is actually what node of the skeleton of the player to use, and any rotation that we want to have on the weapon. We do that so that while they're holding it in their hands, sometimes you want the weapon to be rotated, and I can set up different rotations on different accesses. I also have different fields that the weapons will be used for actual gameplay stuff, and I put those in a fields group. And these are things that the server will read to figure out like how much damage it's going to do, if you're in range, that sort of thing. Let's see. Also a description. Some of the stuff I'm not using yet. I plan on using when I make an inventory HUD, which will be very shortly. So I started with a basic sword template, and then I made two other swords. I made a bloody sword, which inherited sword, so it starts with all these values, and then I override just certain specific values. And then I made a third one called a cleaver, which again inherited sword, so it starts with all these values and then overrides a few more values. This is really neat because I can put a bunch of information up here, and it doesn't look like it's too much data savings, but once I have thousands of items, this will make a very big difference. So once I have my items defined, I've only defined 3 for now. In my entities, what I'm doing to just quickly equip them is I added a new tag in here called weapon. Excuse me. In the weapon field, we'll actually have a string value for a specifically named item, or nothing, or in this case it was bloody sword. So the regular player model is going to have the bloody sword model, and the Gremlin 2 is going to have the cleaver model. Now, in the actual Shiva side of things, how I did this was when the creature first gets set up, I added a call to a new function called setup items. Setup items just looked at the attribute for the weapon that the person should be using, and if there's something there, then it sends a call out to the data module to get the item. The data module just simply fetches that data, grabs it out of its data, and sends it back into the onFetched item data handler. OnFetched item data is almost at the end here. That actually is when we looked at the different fields of the XML that we have set up. If the item source is from a pack, in other words, if it wasn't included in the game, it needs to change the path of the model a little bit. And then it sets up some other attributes and sets some actual fields on the local player model, so that we know what weapon we're using, what mount node, and rotation. I also have another function called, setup weapon. Setup weapon does the job of actually creating the weapon in the game, and if there was already a weapon there, it destroys it and it stores the reference here. And last but not least, we have the update items function. This runs in the onEnter frame, and this just updates the weapon to make sure it always sticks by with whatever mount node it's supposed to be on. And this is what it looks like. So first loads in all the data, connect, create. Here I have my sword, and then I also given a sword to the Gremlin 2. So let's create him, and there he is with his sword as well. Nice.